Hello, everybody. My name is Carol Wirt, and I'm going to be introducing Marianne for this session today. So welcome to the Career Grit Develop Habits That Enable Progress session. And so I would like to introduce Marianne Owens, and our portable or mobile mic isn't working, so I have to stay put here. Where did she go? There, she's behind me, okay. Marianne is a lover of learning, and she has a BCom, an MBA in the Management of Human Resources program, and a PhD in Leadership Development. Marianne also speaks on career and leader development topics. She has been facilitating workshops for over 15 years. And Marianne has a career and executive coaching practice, and she was the founding president of the International Coach Federation, Calgary chapter. Very cool. So, welcome.
Thank you. So I just want to make sure that everybody has handouts. We put the handouts kind of in the middle tables. So if you don't have handouts, you might need to get up and move into the middle here. Or there's some handouts over here as well. So sorry if I'm splitting people up, but we kind of want everybody closer in. There's some more over here, I think, at that table. Where are there extra handouts? There's some extras there. So the handouts are, there's a little bit of a workbook. It's got 4 pages on it, 2 that are double-sided. And then you also will have the PowerPoints. You'll have a copy of the PowerPoints, and you also have a bookmark. So those are extra handouts here, right here. So, okay, I'll just get started. Hopefully everybody can sort that out.
That's it, we're out.
Great. Okay.
So we have one more page.
If somebody didn't if they didn't get a handout, come to me afterwards, and I can take your email, and then I can send you the handouts. So don't worry, I'll get them. Okay? So you don't have to be furiously writing, but. Okay, so I just wanted to explain a little bit about my background and how I came to develop this career grit. When I was doing my PhD, I was studying some very admired leaders about how they became who they are today. And what I found is what dropped out of the interviews. I had to listen to them over and over again. The interviews, I had to tape them and listen to them and see what themes fell out. And what I noticed is they were very resilient and very kind of gritty leaders, and they often would even create their own success, and they weren't really much fazed by failure. So it was just a fascinating thing. And I thought, well, I was working at Toombs during the recession, and I thought, well, how could I translate all these gritty behaviors into the career planning area? I have done career planning in the outplacement area for 10 years, and I also have my own company, so over 10 years I've been doing career and executive coaching as well. So I was really curious, how could I get our career, our people looking for work to to be more gritty and more resilient. So that's how I came to this, and I got to practice doing this workshop inside tombs for quite a few times, and I also have done it outside to different groups of people, like in public forums where different people would come that are interested in the topic as well. So that's how I came to it. So it's kind of like I feel like I'm living the topic still, my PhD topic, in a way to bring it forward. But when a topic like grips you like that, it's fun to keep it alive, and hopefully it's relevant for all of you that have chosen to come to that today. So I want to talk to you about, I'm just going to do this flip chart from here. So I'm going to go over a number of things that you can do to ensure that you're able to keep moving, or yourself, and then I want you to do the exercises for yourself today, but then hopefully you can translate some of this to your clients as well in the career planning area. So these are steps to enhance your grit. And so sometimes I think of grit, I think of grit under our feet when we're running. So that's why I have this metaphor here that these are ways to keep you progressing and moving forward, and our clients as well. So it's kind of a fun metaphor, and I'll be referring to that a few times today. So the things I'll be looking at are like leading with your strengths, putting your best foot forward. So how do we get ourselves to do that in our clients? And then exhibiting a can-do attitude, because people, when they're being interviewed, or when we're networking with others and stuff like that, and we're getting our clients to network with others, they want to have this sense that they can do a bunch of things, right, that they're able to do. That's called self-efficacy in more academic way, but it's this can-do attitude, right? And then seek support to keep some spring in your step as well. So when your clients are kind of low, that they have people that have their back with in their court, that kind of thing. And then broaden and deepen your network for direction and for finding out about work, contract work and employment, and even entrepreneurial. Your network would help you with your marketing as well for an entrepreneur. Manage, reframe, and step over blocks to your progress. So again, this metaphor of running or moving ahead and making progress. Looking for opportunities in the blocks as well. And create your own success is the last one as well. So creating your own success, I've got a PowerPoint on that as well. So lead with your strengths. I do in the booklet here on page 2. It's lead with your strengths. The first topic. So leading with your strengths, it's, I often think you want to put your best foot forward. And so sometimes I talk to clients about, actually having their strengths, kind of before them. Like think of it like a tray before you. So leading with your strengths. And there's your skills, your strengths, how you add value, what your strategic advantage is. All these things that you want to lead with, because the person that's looking in the work search, they're having to obviously put their best foot forward. They don't know people sometimes, or even if they know people, they need to target them on what kind of work they're wanting to do and they're able to do. So lead with your strengths. So this first exercise on page 2 in your little workbook there, it says list some of your strengths. The quicker you can, and this is interesting with your clients, the quicker they can think of their strengths, the more self-efficacy they have as well, and confidence. So it's important to work with them to get at their strengths. They need confidence to promote themselves and network and build your reputation and have a positive vision as well. So if you could write out 5 of your strengths right now and see how quickly you're able to do it, And then think of some ways that you can work with your clients to get them to put their best foot forward and lead with their strengths as well. And do any of you have some ideas that we could that you could share with all of us about, you know, unearthing your clients' strengths and getting them to lead with their strengths as well? Maybe if we have a couple of other ideas from the floor, just besides my ideas, that would be great. Anybody have any ideas? Yeah, that lady in the turquoise.
One of the things that I often ask clients is, what are aspects of your job, particularly if they're doing career exploration, what are aspects of your job in the past that you really like? And often what I find is there's an interest in whatever that area is. And when you have an interest and you like it, you're usually pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So thinking about maybe some of the transferable skills that go along with that helps them to rezoning in terms of
Great.
on what they're good at.
Great, excellent. Okay, thank you. And there was somebody else at the same table? Yeah. Yes.
I work with 18 to 20-year-olds, and what I ask them to do is to go to 3 people they know and trust and respect, and ask them what they think their strengths are,
Okay.
if
Yeah.
they have no starting point for themselves.
Excellent, because that gives them it gives others as well. If they say, if they're promoting themselves and they say, "Oh, my teacher said that about me," then it gives them third-party recognition for those strengths as well. So it gives a certain kind of confidence as well in having that third party. Heather? I know Heather.
So through storytelling, so asking them something that you're really proud of,
Yeah.
and as they're telling the story, the skills come out, having a conversation around those skills, can help to improve something.
Okay, great. So some storytelling of successes and stuff, or
things
something.
they're most proud of.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, through the telling of those stories, there's a lot of skills that emerge
Yeah.
that they maybe hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Excellent. Yep.
Going along with that, asking them what a typical day was at their work and the tasks they completed.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it brings out things that they didn't think about that they did. It was just kind of natural or routine.
Yeah.
Actual skill that they have.
Yeah, good. So she's saying, you know, ask them about their day, the details of their day. That's excellent. And yep.
I really enjoyed the Strengths Finder assessment.
Mm,
I'm lucky
mhm.
that my company, we have that assessment on our first day at work, and we also incorporate into our performance management measures when we're talking to our managers. As well, we do that for our learners in our Level Up program, and they're able to really become more confident in what their strengths are, and we can talk about it in networking, interviews, etc.
Okay, so Strengths Finder. Yeah. Yeah. There's one tool too by it's at the University of Pennsylvania. It's Martin Seligman. It's called Signature Strengths, and it's free. You can do it, and you can learn your 5 top strengths out of. I think he has 40 strengths, but relative to yourself, what your 5 top strengths are, which are it's very interesting tool. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So transferable skills helps to guide the way for the future. Good. Excellent. I also had a client one time. She came in and she was sharing that she'd done all this growth work for about 2 years, and she said it all boiled down to, for her, listing her strengths where she could see them, and then it's saying them out loud so that she could build this self-efficacy within herself, so she could easily say her strengths. And I just thought that was brilliant because, you know, I find when I'm practice interviewing people, they're often, you know, I'm kind of pulling the strengths out of them, or they're having to remember their strengths. But if they actually had them down, listed on their sock drawer or something where they go to every day, or, you know, or the mirror where they're washing their face in the morning or brushing their teeth, and then they actually say their strengths out loud, they're internalizing their strengths, and they're able to orally say them as well, which is so important for the interview and in networking as well. So, okay, so excellent. Thank you for all your sharing. That's great. So be that can-do person. And I've actually got a workbook that I'm selling at the end of the workshop, and it's called Be That Can-Do Person. I've got a whole workbook on that, but just on that topic alone. But so where have you made a positive impact? Where have your clients made a positive impact? Where have they added value? Also, I find if they can keep on working on things and finishing things, that will, make them feel that self-efficacy. So if they have projects, if they can actually complete them, and then they've done that. And as somebody was saying, reviewing what they've done at work, that's really, because they've done all that already, they can do all those things. So it's really brilliant way to have them do this can-do attitude. And then on page 2, there's an exercise there. So I'd just like you to look at the exercise, the 2 exercises under what can you do. Where do you make a positive impact yourself? Where do you know that you make a positive impact? And that's how you add value. It might be your strategic advantage as well. So list out 2 or 3 areas where you make a positive impact. Maybe you've heard others say a certain thing about you, the same word over and over again, and that's an area where you often make a positive impact. Maybe you've heard someone give you that feedback 3 times. Oh, you're really good at this, or you're really creative, or you're really whatever, whatever the word is. Has everybody finished that? Okay. So that's great. So I want to move on to the next one, and then we'll see. I'd like to maybe get some feedback about you, how this impacts you, if you understand it and stuff like that. In the second part of that exercise, number 2, under what can you do, there's a question there. If you were the only person that could solve a certain problem, what would you do? And this question I'm asking because often if you ask it of yourself, your resourcefulness will come to the fore. It will come up that, if you were the only one, you had to rely on you, what would you do? So think of a problem that maybe your team has at work or yourself with your clients. And if you were the only one to resolve this problem, is there new resourcefulness within yourself that could come to the fore? And you might work with this with your clients as well. So give that question a try, and I'm just wanting to see how it getting hooked up here, how it lands with you, and if it works for you, that kind of thing. So just want to see how you react to that question. So does anybody want to comment on that question? And I would like to hand this around if you want to talk as well. How's that landing for you? Is it working for you or not? Or just wondering. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, how is that going?
Thank you. So I just want to just make a note that when you made us think this way, it was difficult because
Yeah.
we even exchanged some feedback here that sometimes we feel we are bound by rules and
Oh, okay.
policies, and we don't believe that we can practice, that can do attitude.
Okay.
And it might stop us from being creative problem solvers. And probably our clients experience that,
As
freezing
well.
stage as well. So
Yeah, so you might have to work with them with some of the barriers, ways around the barriers. Is that what you're thinking, or that's yeah? Because if there's policies at work, yeah. But that was interesting in the panel. If you were here in the panel, they were saying people don't think of going right to the company and talking to them about hiring, differently abled people and stuff like that. And they were kind of saying, like, go through that barrier, so it is important that if we can think through to move beyond the barrier, what could we do within our role and what is possible within our role. Yeah, okay. Anybody else have any luck with that question, or it is a difficult question, I know. Okay, yeah. Great.
Maybe it's kind of, for me, not working alone. So even though if I was the only one charged with
Yeah.
solving the problem, I would try to find out people who've done it before.
Yeah.
So
Good.
the research and not feeling isolated in trying to solve the problem, but
Reach out. Yeah.
reach out,
Yeah.
maybe not within the organization, but even to other organizations or other people who've gone
Okay.
there before.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Great. Yeah. Here.
So one of the things that I kept thinking about is with my organization, we work with a lot of youth, and we're trying to get their parents engaged with trying to really put forward that career development is something that they should be thinking about, and it's not something about what do you want to be when you grow up in that very linear and old school way of thinking about things. So we've been having a really hard time accessing those parents, and one of the key things I think that we're kind of leaning towards is being innovative and being creative with how we are connecting with people and using things like technology to reach out and different forums, whether that's podcasts or little video clips or different ways in which we can disseminate our message that hasn't traditionally maybe have been used or hasn't
Or, yeah.
technically taken off yet. But it's definitely trying to, I think, accept the challenge that's presented in front of you and be as creative and innovative as you can when approaching that problem and approaching it from many different perspectives to try and paint a better picture of how you can solve that and the different ways that can go about doing that.
Great. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Anybody else? That's good. Okay.
I wouldn't mind adding one more about barriers. So sometimes there are barriers like financial access, so finding resources so that they can have access to those resources. So how you go about those barriers, like for example for me, I have experienced barriers, and that has sometimes to do with financial barriers. So when we can get over those financial barriers, then we can move on.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. So the next topic is seeking support. So in your handout, there's an exercise with a big box. So I like seeking support. Like, we're social animals, and sometimes our clients, they might feel kind of down or something like that, but when they're with friends or people that have their back, where they can be themselves, it always seems to uplift them. So this is a way to get them progressing and moving. This is a grit tool for them to ensure that they have support around them of people that they can be themselves with, basically. And they can get ideas and stuff like that from them. But mostly they can be themselves and talk about their problems, and they don't have crazy expectations of them. So it's always a really good thing to analyze. So I've got an exercise here on page 3 at the top, and what I have the clients do is there in the middle of the, this U is actually you, and then what I get them to do is put their support system around them. So if their support people are really close to them, they're accessible to them, then they can be closer to them in that diagram. And if they're farther away and they're not so accessible, but they're still, they still are, you know, they can be themselves with them, they're still part of their support. Because often when we're, I'm finding when, you know, myself and my clients, sometimes we don't turn to the others that are readily available when we're having a struggle. And sometimes we do. And this is a good reminder of all the people that they can turn to when they're going through the ups and downs of the work search, right? It's kind of an up and down, like a roller coaster sometimes. So it's really important that they have social support. So try this exercise yourself and put the people around you that are supportive of you. And I just want to show you this slide as well. So this slide has examples of who might be on your support team. I call it a support team. And so they could be family, friends, groups, networks, a spouse, a partner, faith leader, your faith community, coworkers, that kind of thing. So think of all the people in your life that are there for you. You know, maybe they invite you to do things with them, and there could be family, friends, and beyond that, colleagues, former colleagues, that kind of thing. And then the second part of the exercise, do you turn to others when you're frustrated with work or life? And if not, what stops you from doing this? So hopefully there are people on that support team that you are reaching out to. I had a client one time, a leader, and I had these leaders do this exercise in a training I was doing. And this one fellow, he put down one person on his square, that's all. And his one person was in another country. So that was really kind of scary for me. I was just like, wow. So, and he had people that were actually, he had a coach that was trying to invite, like not me, but someone else that was a coach, and he really wanted to be his friend. And having a coach as a friend, you probably know, as if you have career counselors as your friends, they're very resourceful and they're really good listeners and all that. So it's a wonderful friend. But he wasn't actually even leaning into that opportunity. So sometimes it's, you know, maybe for him it was not wanting to be vulnerable or something like that, or I don't know what he had learned in his life. But we are social animals, and things go better when we have more support in our lives, right? So he was just kind of this lone individualist, you know, kind of working really hard, but kind of sinking instead of really thriving. And I think that was part of, he didn't have enough support in his life. So.
What do you do in that circumstance? I have a few clients that do that as well.
Yeah. Well, I asked him to actually, you know, go out with that coach and do some things with him as a friend. That was a start, but also him just being aware, and I said that I find that scary, and I think you need to develop your network, broaden your network and your support system. And then he went after doing that. And then, you know, you can set goals with your clients too, that they have so many contacts per week with others and that kind of thing. Like whether it's to do something social just in their life, it's very supportive of them, or whether it's networking, and that's another story, but both of those aspects are support the person, social support.
I think sometimes the problem is we think that we need people that give us validation. So you don't think of including in there or anybody that will probably contribute
Right. So that might come back to the self-esteem, the self-efficacy again. So that if you can get them to build up that positive about themselves, and then they can take that positivity out to their network. Yeah, good. Or sometimes loving yourself exercises. I don't know if anyone has any exercises like that, but those types of exercises, and then you're feeling really good about yourself and you move up more out into the world, right? Yes?
I attended a volunteer orientation, and one of the exercises that they've done is with a ball of yarn.
Yeah.
And so the first person that had the yarn would loosen the thread, and then they would call somebody that had the rings, and they would say first, for example, I'm Rowena, and right, okay, Riley would catch me, and then you would say, yes, I will catch you, and I will throw you the thread. Then everybody would do that, and that would form a net,
Wow.
which again, you would get some learning, some insights with regards to whether how they throw the thread, did they catch it, did they not, did they tighten it, whatever, and so it makes the team kind of gel more.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that was simple, but yet it was very
Powerful,
Yes.
visual, and it's also like a safety net. I didn't bring up, it's your social support is your safety net when you're having a dip on the roller coaster of the work search, right? Your clients, they have a dip, they have some people they can turn to and support them in the safety net. Excellent. Yeah, very visual. You can imagine it too, isn't that fun to imagine? Yeah.
We can see this a bit challenging for people who are recently in transition due to job loss, whereas they would go to work and engage with their colleagues and then go home and
Yeah.
be with their families and possibly not have a greater other pockets of community that
Yeah.
they belong to, so that when they're in transition they can feel quite alone. So then how to revive some of those connections or even create new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I think you can do an exercise, what did they get from their colleagues before? And then how can they replace that? Because, if it was like a person that was really funny or a person that was a really good listener, and then as they go out in the world and take some risks socially, that they kind of look for a person like that again, because that was helpful for them. That's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Well, I do think that connecting with other people is really important, but I think that the mental anguish that can happen when people have lost their job is really hard, and to be around other people who are actually still very successful can add to that anguish, that pain. It might not hit the work in reverse. And I know that when in Calgary, when the economy just really went downhill, there was a peer support group called Laid Off Calgary.
Right.
And there's so many people that joined, and then you
Yeah.
would get together and have meetings and connect, and they would be experiencing some of the same things. And
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
That's brilliant. So Laid Off Calgary?
Yeah.
And they meet at the libraries?
They
and
meet at different
Okay,
places.
different places.
I think
It's on
Facebook
Facebook page, yeah. I gave a talk once there. It was really rich
Did you?
experience, yeah. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, they're a really good group, Laid Off Calgary, yeah. And I noticed, I'm working at Tombs currently on contract. And we have some Synovus clients, and they all came in, and they did make a group, a LinkedIn group, and it was similar to the story she was saying before, and they really support each other, and we hear what they're talking about in that group, and when we're working with them as well. So they can do self-forming groups as well. Laid Off Calgary is brilliant, though. It's anyone that wants to go can go, and so there's no barriers for it. That's a really good idea. Okay. So the next exercise is to broaden and deepen your network. So this is a way, I find there is a stigma to networking. Some ways that woman that just shared, some ways to get through some of those barriers are, if people that are working aren't networking, they probably should be. So so if someone that's out of work, it wants to network with them, I don't think there should be so much stigma to, that they should feel beholden to someone that's working, because it's smart for that person to be networking too, because Calgary's a small city. You don't know when you're going to be out of work, and you don't know when that employed person's going to be out of work. So if you can go into networking, I think without the stigma of you're actually creating an opportunity for others to network as well, and it will create a safety net for them, like you were just talking about. It'll create a safety net in their network. So it's a very equitable thing, I think, when people are, if they can look at it that way, then they might not be as tentative in their phone calls, or might reach out more. So. And this book, Love is the Killer App, this is a way to kind of give, even though the person's doing the work search, if they can give information, contacts, and compassion to the person that they're meeting, then that can come back at them as well. So it's kind of like paying it forward. Even though they're looking for work, can they be really helpful and have a positive impact on new people that they're meeting? And then it'll come back at them maybe 25% of the time. That's what Tim Saunders says. And I saw this book in a best practice career planning white paper, and I read it. And sure enough, when I try the techniques, it's really, really wonderful. And you also feel good because you're helping others, and then it can come back at you. You can't assume that it's going to come back at you, but sometimes it will come back at you if you're making a positive impact, if you're being helpful. If you're networking, even here, you're networking and you're being helpful at your tables, and that adds value to the person, and then maybe they'll want to meet with you again or something like that. So it's interesting how it comes around. So what goal can you set to broaden and deepen your network? Also, I find if clients are deeply helping, maybe they have 3 target companies they're going after. They're deeply getting to know people inside the department that they could work. They're deeply being helpful. They'll just automatically view them as the next hire. Maybe they don't have a position right now, but they could, with time, if you're deeply helping in a few target areas, a few target companies, then they may view you just naturally as, oh, we want to bring in Heather, she's the next hire. So Heather's being helpful for me today, so that's an example. So anyway, it's a fun way to look at it, to paying it forward, that movie, if you've seen that movie, Pay It Forward. So I think I missed this. This is kind of a fun slide. And then our last topic, we're going to be looking at managing and reframing setbacks. I gave this talk at APEGA, well, not exactly this talk, but a kind of a version of this talk, and I was at APEGA, so there were a lot of engineers in the room, and they can be challenging sometimes, be really challenged, the speaker. But anyway, one of them was very helpful, and he said, I don't, because I was saying lean into difficulties to try and find the learning, or try and find the lemonade in the lemon, or whatever, that kind of thing. He goes, I don't lean into, I dive into difficulties or dive into change, so that he could become the expert at it. So he could, he was saying there was all these changes at work, and he'd just dive into it so he could become the expert, and then he could ride that wave of that trend and that expertise. But he was diving in, and I just appreciated him saying that so much, because I was saying lean into the difficulty, and he was saying dive into it. So it was so interesting. That was a really resilient person, and I learned from him greatly, so that was super interesting. So where are the learnings, opportunities, and progress you can make with difficulties? So it does take some ferreting out what those opportunities are. It's obviously not obvious. It's not the first thought that comes into your mind. But have you noticed with time, though, some of the most difficult things in your life, and then you become almost an expert at them, and then you're, because you've dealt with it, and with time, it's like it's a non-issue for you anymore. You have the confidence. I see these women shaking their heads, and it's like we all have had some things that were really difficult that we became really good at because we had to keep going and surviving, right? So there is opportunity in difficulties. And I just want to show you this slide. I love this slide. So it says, look for opportunities everywhere. There are opportunities when you're successful here. Then when there's change, there are opportunities. That's what that one fellow was talking about at APEGA. When in the status quo, there's opportunities. In problem situation, there's opportunities. And in failure, there is opportunities as well. So it's just a gorgeous way of assessing some problems for yourself to look at all the opportunities. I also saw something, I don't know if you saw this on Facebook. It was a list of Elon Musk's failures. Has anyone seen that? Did anyone see that on Facebook? Okay, there were a couple people. And there were like a lot of them. And because people are kind of feeling like maybe he's been an instant success. And how many failures were there? There were a lot of failures. Were you shocked as well? Yeah. And there were just like failure after failure after failure. And now he's still struggling with Tesla, it sounds like. But with SpaceX, there's no struggle. It's just such a success story. But so it shows what a resilient person he is, because he went. If you look that up, you might Google it. Elon Musk, his failures, and then that could be though inspiring for our clients, because sometimes you feel like you're the only one going through all these failures, but really successful people have their own journey and their own hills to get over as well. So let's do this exercise on page 4. So what you do is you list a difficult situation for yourself, and then you go around the outside, all the questions on the outside, and ask yourself those questions, and see if you can come up with some new ideas to go after that situation. So some of the questions are, have you noticed that often with time and effort, difficult situations turn into opportunities to learn, to become stronger, to get important feedback? How can you lean into and make this situation into an opportunity? Who has moved industries that you can talk to? Who has gone through a situation like this that you can talk with? What managers and influencers would it be advantageous for you to talk to? What are the latest trends, issues, and challenges in your target industry and market? And I always kind of think, can you ride one of those? Can you become an expert in a trend area so that you are very employable, right? Which of these trends, issues, challenges spark your curiosity and interest? Can you learn more about these issues? What companies are succeeding in the midst of difficult circumstances? What are they doing differently? This was written for the very difficulties that we faced over in our oil and gas industry, really, but we can apply these questions to any industry and any job. How can you help them or apply these techniques elsewhere? So how can you help some of the people that are doing well even in difficulties? So those are some of the questions. So if there's a difficulty you want to analyze right now, see how you could work with this just for a minute or two, and then we'll see what happened for you. Any new ideas that you have? Anybody have anything they'd want to share with a larger group from this exercise? Anybody? Heather, nothing? Heather, my helper, do you want to? How does that help? Thanks.
So we were just talking, a colleague and myself, about clients that we deal with, so rather than personalizing it, but we see a lot of people that want to change industries for all kinds of reasons. So getting them to ask these questions of themselves. So are they clear on what the trends and issues are? If they're not, where do they get that information? So they can present themselves in a way where they're knowledgeable and potentially marketable. So these were, we thought, some good questions that we could help our clients through that are looking at making a major shift.
Okay, thank you. Great. Yeah, sometimes I think too, don't need to be double mic'd here, but sorry. People, I think people don't realize they can become an expert so easily as well. I mean, it's not totally easy, but you could have clients write articles for LinkedIn, and then they're always associated with their profile. So I challenge clients to write articles for LinkedIn and on trend areas that they want to become an expert in anyway. And they have time, and so it's a good way for them to just dive into that expertise, like that one fellow said at PEGA, dive in. I don't know what are some other ways of diving in to become an expert, but that's one way that's really accessible to everyone because of social media. Great. Anybody else have ideas of how you can dive in to become an expert in an area you don't know much about? But sometimes it's researching, reading, writing articles, presenting. Yep.
One individual I worked with had a ton of expertise in the power industry in Alberta, and he was at a fairly senior level and was let go. I really struggled because he had been at a fairly senior level, so there's not as many jobs. So where he ended up finding some contract work was more on the renewable side.
Right.
He thought at first, what a steep learning curve, but what he realized pretty quickly was that it wasn't as steep as he thought. And
Right.
so a lot of the same principles did apply. So helping people to think maybe a little more creatively about what do I already know that I'm, subject matter expert in, and then how can I apply it more readily than I thought,
Yeah.
right? And I
Good.
think particularly for those who have struggled to find work at their same level in the energy industry, where can I take some of that knowledge? Not all of it's going to transfer, but I bet a lot of it does. Right?
That's great. So using the skills that they have, and then because they are a subject matter expert, they could dive pretty deep. It might not take them that long, right, to become an expert, really. So that's very hopeful, and the possibilities for our clients are vast if we take that example. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so I've got one more slide, and then we'll wrap up. Any other comments about becoming an expert quickly like that? That's a great example. So there aren't often the barriers that we think are there for our clients to become an expert. And then my last slide is on creating your own success. So this is like the topic like Lisa was talking about, owning your own career, and these are ways that you can create your own success. So develop new skills, keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening, volunteer to gain skills, commit to learning in trend areas, do your homework, be persistent and determined, promote your skills, strengths, and progress, lean into the reality and feedback to grow as well. Okay, so those are some ideas, and I'm sure you have some other ideas for creating your own success as well. Anybody else want to talk about how to create your own success, or your clients to create their own success? Any other ideas in the room before we close more? Yeah.
I was really inspired by a client the other day who is in the oil and gas industry, and he's an engineer. And for the life of him, he couldn't get in front of any hiring managers.
Great. Yeah, great, excellent. So now he's consulting in that area and the doors are opening for him. Excellent. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions for me on this topic? I just want to remind you of our steps to a career grit and making progress. I always think of it as making progress. And when I first interviewed these really admired leaders, they were just progress was their way of being. And I think these are some ways for our career clients to make progress on their work search. So we did go over these areas. Put your best foot forward, lead with your strengths, exhibit a can-do attitude, seek support to keep your spring in your step, broaden and deepen your network for direction and work, manage, reframe, and step over blocks, look for opportunities in the blocks, create your own success as well. Okay, so any questions from anybody in the crowd? Thank you for sharing, everybody, as well. I appreciate that. Okay. Any questions at all? You can come talk to me afterwards, too, if you have any questions as well. Okay.